Why does thinking too much make it harder to be happy? You have a good life. You know that. You can see it clearly when you step back and look at the whole picture. And yet, something still feels off. There is a quiet restlessness that follows you from room to room. A low hum of worry that never fully goes away. Replay conversations from 3 days ago. You rehearse arguments that will probably never happen. You lie awake at night not because anything is wrong, but because your mind refuses to stop asking what if. And the strangest part? The harder you try to think your way to peace, the further away peace seems to get. This is not weakness. This is not ingratitude. This is not a character flaw you need to fix. There is a name for what is happening inside your mind, and once you understand it, you may never see your own thinking the same way again. A mind that thinks too much is not a broken mind. It is a very capable mind that has been pointed in the wrong direction. Psychologists call this overthinking, but that word barely captures what it actually feels like from the inside. It is not just thinking a lot. It is thinking in circles. It is running the same scenario through your head again and again, each time adding a new layer of doubt, a new possible outcome, a new reason to worry. Research published in the Journal of Abnormal Psychology found that people who engage in repetitive, uncontrolled thinking, what researchers call rumination, are significantly more likely to experience anxiety and depression, not because their lives are harder, but because their minds are working harder on the wrong things. The thinking itself becomes the source of suffering. Dr. Susan Nolan-Hoeksema, a psychologist at Yale University who spent decades studying rumination, described it as thinking that is self-focused, past-oriented, and passive. You are not solving a problem, you are rehearsing it over and over, without ever reaching a conclusion that brings relief. And here is the painful irony. The smarter you are, the more skilled your mind is at building convincing arguments for why things might go wrong. Intelligence that could be used to create and connect and understand instead turns inward and starts generating problems that do not yet exist. But why does this happen at all? Why would a mind do this to itself? The answer starts much earlier than you might expect. In the part of your brain designed not for happiness, but for survival deep inside your brain is a structure called the amygdala. It is ancient. It evolved long before language, long before reason, before any of the complex thoughts you are capable of today. Its job is simple. Scan for danger. Flag anything that could be a threat. Keep you alive. For most of human history, this system worked beautifully. A sound in the bushes, a shadow at the edge of the firelight, a face that looked angry in a crowd. The amygdala registered the signal, flooded your body with stress hormones, and made you react fast. The problem is that your amygdala cannot tell the difference between a predator in the bushes and a text message you have not received yet. It responds to social rejection the same way it responds to physical danger. It treats uncertainty like a threat. And in a modern world full of uncertainty about relationships, about the future, about whether you said the right thing at dinner last Tuesday, the alarm never fully turns off. Neuroscientist Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, author of How Emotions Are Made, explains that the brain is a prediction machine. It is constantly simulating what might happen next, drawing on everything it has ever learned, looking for patterns that could keep you safe. Overthinking is what happens when that prediction system goes into overdrive, running simulations not to prepare for a specific threat, but because uncertainty itself has become the trigger. Your mind is not broken. It is doing exactly what it evolved to do. It has just been handed a world it was not designed for. Here is where it gets more personal. Not everyone overthinks at the same level. And the people who struggle with it most are often the people who care the most about getting things right, about how others feel, about the consequences of their choices. Research from the University of Michigan found that people high in empathy and conscientiousness are more prone to rumination. They replay conversations because they care whether they hurt someone. They rehearse decisions because they care about the outcome. They revisit the past because they want to understand, not because they are weak. But caring deeply and thinking clearly are not always the same thing. And when the two get tangled together, the mind starts using all of that caring energy to spin in place instead of move forward. Dr. Ethan Kross, a psychologist at the University of Michigan and author of Chatter, Voice in Our Head, calls this internal narrative chatter. It is the stream of self-focused thought that runs in the background of your day, criticizing, questioning, rehearsing, worrying. And his research shows that chatter does not just feel unpleasant. It physically raises cortisol levels, disrupts sleep, weakens the immune system, and makes it harder to connect with the people around you. The mind that cannot stop thinking is a mind under stress, even when the outside world looks perfectly calm. So what actually happens to happiness when the mind never rests? Happiness requires something your overthinking mind struggles to give: presence. The ability to be here, in this moment, with what is actually in front of you. Not in the version of this moment your mind is already narrating, analyzing, or worrying about. Psychologists Martin Seligman and Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi have both studied what makes people feel genuinely alive and satisfied. And the answer consistently is flow. A state of full absorption in what you are doing, where self-consciousness disappears and time seems to stop. Athletes call it being in the zone. Artists call it being lost in the work. But the research is clear. Those moments of full presence are among the highest points of human well-being. Overthinking is the opposite of flow. It pulls your attention out of the present moment and into an imaginary future or a reconstructed past. When your attention is always somewhere else, somewhere your mind has decided might need to be monitored or solved, you miss the actual life happening in front of you. This is not a small thing. A landmark study from Harvard University, led by Matthew Killingsworth and Daniel Gilbert, tracked the moment-to-moment happiness of thousands of people using a smartphone app. Their finding was striking. People were significantly less happy when their minds were wandering than when they were fully engaged in what they were doing, even if what they were doing was something ordinary. A wandering mind, included, is an unhappy mind. And a mind caught in overthinking is a mind that wanders constantly by design. Here's the part that many people never hear, and the part that matters most. Thinking too much does not make you more prepared. It does not make you safer. It does not solve the problems it keeps rehearsing. What it does is consume the mental and emotional energy you need to actually live. Dr. Cross describes a simple but powerful technique in his research: distancing yourself from your own thoughts by shifting perspective. Instead of asking, "Why did I do that?" a question that pulls you deeper into the loop, try asking, "Why did she do that?" as if you were watching yourself from the outside. This small shift activates a different part of your brain, one that is calmer, one that can see the situation more clearly, one that is not caught in the emotional current of the moment. It sounds almost too simple, but the research behind it is substantial. Getting distance from your own thoughts, whether through writing, through talking to someone you trust, through movement, through a moment of quiet, changes the chemistry of the experience. It does not erase what you are feeling. It gives you a small window of space between the feeling and the reaction. And in that space, something like peace becomes possible. You do not need to think less. You need to learn when to let the thinking stop. The mind that overthinks is not your enemy. It is a mind that has been working very hard for a very long time to protect you. It learned somewhere, perhaps in a childhood where uncertainty meant danger, or in a relationship where you had to stay alert, or simply in a world that moved too fast and demanded too much, that thinking ahead was the safest way to stay safe. But safety and happiness are not the same thing. And the life you are quietly trying to understand your way to cannot be thought into existence. It has to be lived. The next time your mind starts spinning, replaying, rehearsing, worrying about a future that has not arrived, try something small. Name it, not to fight it, just to see it clearly. My mind is doing it again. That small act of noticing creates distance. And distance, even just a breath of it, was where the quiet begins. You do not need a quieter world. You need a mind that knows when to rest. And that is something you can learn.